Did you know that your brain is actually running on outdated software that was programmed into you when you were just 5 years old by your parents? And so these limiting beliefs that are stopping you from achieving all of your goals are not actually your fault, because recent neuroscience shows that these limiting beliefs are actual physical structures in your brain. But the good news is that they can be rewired in minutes and not years. So I looked at the mindset frameworks of giants in the industry like Sam Ovens, Alex Hormozi, Alex Becker, and Dan Coe, and I've synthesized it into a 5-minute protocol that you can copy directly after this video so that you can use the same process to identify your current self, create a clear picture of your future self, and then work towards decreasing the gap between them. Now, this is the exact process that I have used to break through perfectionism and build a $500,000 agency. And in the next 15 minutes, I'm just going to show you exactly how to do it. And all of the rabbit holes that I've gone down with alchemy of self, reality transurfing, and a whole bunch of other stuff. All right, so let's dive into it. So I have taken the frameworks of a lot of these gurus and I've broken them down into really easy to understand summaries here. So Sam Ovens talks about the full stack mind, in which there are 4 different layers that we need to understand. The first layer is this idea of self-awareness, identity, and belief systems. And most people are unconsciously here and they run on autopilot. They tell themselves stories like, I'm not the type of person who can charge 5K, I'm not a salesperson, rich people are evil. And if you look at the common denominator across all poor people, they think the same way. Then you have layer 2, which is mental cognition. So this is your ability to problem solve, think critically, and prioritize. So if you prioritize busy work, I'm talking to you, I know that I'm talking directly to you here, perfecting the landing page or doing things like working on the logo or taking care of little fires inside of Slack, which I've been so guilty of, instead of prioritizing revenue-generating tasks like sales, marketing, because deep down you likely believe that you are not ready yet and everything needs to be perfect first. Also, you are good at the busy work and it makes you feel like you're actually accomplishing something, whereas taking a big bite out of that scary task, like chasing down the leads, doing those cold calls, doing those outreaches, or firing those people, is difficult. But you know that you can go in and you can do like a couple minutes of this and that, and it'll make you feel like you've done something when actually you've done jack all. And layer 3 is business principles. So your values and beliefs about how to operate. So you say things to yourself like, I should not follow up because I don't want to spam people. I should undercharge because I don't want to be perceived as greedy. Again, this is all inherited from your parents' scarcity mindset. And layer 4 is business disciplines. So these are things like marketing, sales, operations, the tactical skills. This is where most people start, but tactics don't work if the foundation is broken. Right? If all this other stuff doesn't work, doesn't make sense, then all of this falls apart. So Sam says people try to learn Facebook ads, like top layer, where their mental awareness at the bottom layer is completely broken. It's like installing Microsoft Word on a computer with a virus. So look, to really hammer home what I'm talking about here, I heard this quote in a TED Talk the other day, and it floored me. I had to stop, listen to it again, and I wrote it down in my notes app. So you can never rise above the opinion of yourself. And this opinion is largely formed in our childhood years, under 7 years old, from the perception of where we think we did or we didn't get love from the people we wanted it most from. So what it's saying is that all of these things that you're trying to do to rise above and be successful, you will never rise above the opinion that you hold of yourself. And the truth is that this opinion was given to you and formed by people who didn't even know that they were forming it, and by like your parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents, when you were under 7 years old. And so they programmed you with a operating system that has carried you through your whole life. And every time you run an action through that operating system, it checks for the programming that was given to you when you were 0 to 7. And so it's so difficult to change that operating system unless you first of all realize that it exists and you follow these simple things that these guys have laid out. So I just wanted to really talk about what we're trying to accomplish here is pretty profound. So some of the things that Dan Coe talks about, this kind of touches on his mega viral article that entitled "How to Change Your Entire Life in One Day." Which is here. Now, I have another video coming out which I break this whole thing down. So if you want to check that out, make sure you are subscribed. But essentially, the TLDR is like this, like how an identity gets installed. So first you have a goal. Usually it's unconscious and it's installed early. So it's like, I need to feel safe. And then the perception. So you see reality through that goal's lens. And so you notice all the risks, not the opportunities. And then there is the learning stage where you notice what supports the goal. And you remember stories of failed businesses and you ignore the success stories to support the perception that was given to you by the goal that you start to see life through. And then you subtly start acting towards that goal and getting feedback. Now, so remember, this goal is not serving us. This is typically something that's like, you stay in your job, don't launch, you need to feel safe, right? And then this conditioning kicks in where we repeat until it becomes this automatic behavior. And every time you think about launching, you talk yourself out of it because you've gone through all of these other stages and you've learned that every time you try, you fail. And so you start not even working towards, you never challenge it so that you remain feeling safe. And it becomes this automatic process, and then it becomes this identity which you hold for decades sometimes, and it makes it feel like it's impossible to break through. The good news is it's not. And I'm going to give you the 5-minute protocol in a second, but you start saying to yourself, I am the type of person who, insert limiting belief or insert thing that doesn't serve you. So you say things like, I'm responsible, I'm cautious, and I'm not a risk taker. And then you defend it to stay psychologically consistent. So when somebody suggests starting a business, you start listing all the reasons it won't work. And I often see this with men's perception around women. Like, it often comes out in a very visceral way where in order for that man to stay in a relationship with that woman, he's have to convince himself of all of these different things, which on some level may be cope. And then when somebody else challenges that in a friendly group environment, the man feels like he's being challenged, his core beliefs are being challenged. And so you start defending all of these core beliefs that you have so that you can stay consistent. And so you start putting other people down and start like bringing their thinking down to your level. It's like an unbelievably toxic thing that happens all the time with business, with relationships, with goals, big lofty goals, with anything really. And so you start forming these new goals, and your identity shapes these new goals, the loop restarts, and you sort of like spiral down. So if many of you feel like that, the reason is that it starts with this programming that was given to us under 7 years old. And something I want to touch on before I get into like the solution here is this idea of what Hormozi talks about, and I think it's brilliant what he mentions, which is this action identity loop. So in the same way that there is this negative loop which most of us belong to, there is this positive loop that we can force ourselves to go through, which is do, evidence, identity, confidence, back to do. And so he breaks it down like this. Most people think that they need to fake their way to confidence. They need to fake their way to success, and they need to scream affirmations at themselves in the mirror. And once they are confident, then they will do the thing. But really, Hormozi talks about if you strip everything away, the only thing that matters is doing. Because if you don't have confidence, confidence comes from doing. It comes from evidence, and evidence comes from doing, and identity comes from doing. And so if you strip it all away, the only thing that matters is to do. So he talks about it like this. What is the future version of yourself? What would that version do? The ideal version of yourself. And then you build evidence through those actions to prove that you act that way. And then if there is enough proof, you start describing yourself as the type of person who does the thing. And so when you have enough evidence of the doing, it becomes your identity, which then translates into confidence. Because if you are the type of person who knows, and I see this all the time when I'm working with sort of younger business owners, like I mentor a smaller group of people inside the Shepherd Society. Every week we get on a private call, and I run people through like some of their limiting beliefs and some action steps. And like, yes, there's a whole bunch of SOPs and structures, but in my opinion, the most valuable thing is that we have these weekly calls where I get on and I like individually ask everybody what they're struggling with, what are their action steps, and then they tell me, and then I remove those limiting beliefs, or at least I try my very best. And so a lot of the struggle that I see people having is that they don't have the evidence yet, and it's not part of their identity. And so therefore they stop doing because it's not the type of thing that they do, if that makes sense. And the way that you overcome that is by doing the thing, even though it doesn't feel natural, even though you know that there's no evidence that it will succeed. You can always look to past evidence of things that you've done. And so I usually know that if you put me in the middle of something that is hard and painful, I will figure it out because I have an overwhelming amount of evidence to suggest that I am the type of person that figures stuff out, which then gives me the confidence to go and do. Okay? So all of this loops back to doing, and so confidence reinforces more action. So if you want to be a certain type of person, you need to do what that person does. Identity is not something you become first. Identity is a description of what you repeatedly do. Let me read that again. Identity is not something you become first. Identity is a description of what you repeatedly do. And so, Hormozi further says that if you lack confidence, build evidence. If you lack that evidence, then go and build a skill. And if you don't have any skill, then start with discipline. And if you don't have discipline, then start with accountability. And if you don't have accountability, then change your environment. So, really let this sink in because it's so important. And it's one of the reasons why I think, having the accountability in a group like this is so powerful. Every time I've had accountability, I've just had massive hockey stick-like growth across all areas of my life. And when I have a client that gets on a call with me and they ask me a question, I just can, with balls to bones confidence, tell them that I can solve that problem because I've done it so many times, because I have evidence and I have the skill. If you don't have any of this stuff, which maybe some of you don't, where I started was with these two things here, discipline and accountability. And so if I don't know what I need to do in my business and I don't have the evidence or the skills yet, what I do is I wake up every day at the same time. I go to the gym every single day. I don't touch sugar. I don't touch processed foods. I eat unbelievably clean. I don't engage in any lustful activities. I completely remove girls and all of those types of filthy things from my life, and I am unbelievably disciplined. So this is what they call the monk mode. And so many of you may just need to start here. And you will even see that there are people in the group here who are working towards their goals, and they realize that, All right, well, all the action steps are too difficult. It's not part of my identity. The thing that I can control is stopping to smoke, don't drink, don't have lustful thoughts and take action on those thoughts, have some more discipline and routine in my life, and all of a sudden, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, and then you build the discipline, and then you build the skill, and then you build the evidence, and then you build the confidence, and then you repeat. Because you can't fake confidence, but you can engineer it by working backwards to the level you actually control and start there and build up. So, like, really powerful stuff here. Now, what I want to do is dive into the 3 belief viruses that are killing entrepreneur success, and then right after this, give you the 5-minute protocol that I think is going to be an absolute game changer. And like, as an aside, if you prefer these types of videos, which are a little bit less business tactical, like how to set up cold email or whatever, breaking down, advertising principles and levels of awareness, more like mindset stuff that starts here first, like internally, like, leave me a like, leave me a comment, let me know, and I would just make way more of this stuff. I've recently hired a performance coach, and I've only had 1 session with him, and already it's been like, oh my God, I'm going to make so much progress. It's ridiculous. So I'm starting, this is why I want to put out more content like this. If you guys love that, let me know, right? Comment, like, do whatever you need to do. The 3 viruses that are stopping you from achieving your full potential as an entrepreneur specifically. The first one is perfectionism. So what I thought perfectionism was that I have extremely high standards and I don't want to put something out that is going to tarnish my reputation or make me look bad. But what I realized is that it's just disguised as high standards is just disguised as just fear of judgment disguised as high standards. So spending 6 months on a website that should take 2 weeks that now you can do on Lovable in literally 2 hours is unacceptable. Because never launching because it's not ready is unacceptable. Obsessing over details that don't matter is unacceptable. Saying that you're not going to shoot the ad because your videographer's on vacation and just pulling out your iPhone and recording an ad, that would make me look unprofessional. And so I had this conversation with a friend last night who was talking about content, and I'm like, the amount of time I wasted perfectionizing and creating the perfect system to create content. What I should have done is just picked up my phone, pointed at my face, and just started talking, and then put it out there, and I would have figured out what people like and what they don't. And I would have gotten over the initial hump of, I don't know if I can do this, like, what if people say this about me, what if people look at the content and it's not as good, have a pass as a videographer, so like it needs to be good. All absolute garbage. Because if you just look at the scoreboard, I had put out, 4 videos over, I think it was 2 years. And, I had a little under, I think around 1,000 subscribers and a couple thousand views. You can see here that one of them did well, a couple didn't do okay. And then I posted 1 video per day for 100 days, and now my channel has 170 odd videos or so, and some of these videos that I thought would never do well, that I put together in 25 minutes, have 20,000 views. Some of them have 2,000 views. Some of them have 50 views, for sure. Like, it doesn't equal good quality content by just pumping out stuff every day, but I can tell you that I have learned so much by putting out 170 videos that I would just have never learned if I just only put out these 4 videos. And like, this thumbnail, I got 5 versions of it made, and I spent like $300 on 4 different thumbnail designers. This one as well, I remember taking just like 2 weeks just for the thumbnail. 500 views. just outrageous, and some of these thumbnails, most of them, you can see that I recorded the video And then in 5 minutes in Photoshop, I just took a screenshot and then just plastered on some super basic text. 1,000 views. 1,000 views. Or, the anomaly on my channel, which was the first one that I posted, which caused all of this, which I don't have here, but it's just literally the same. And so what are you doing? If I had to think about where it came from, it comes from criticism from parents, teachers, impossible standards set by myself, competitors, family members. As a man, I could probably look to my father for a lot of this stuff. Punishment for mistakes, and my brain learned imperfection equals danger, equals judgment, equals pain. And so as a cost, as an entrepreneur, this is one of the, this is where you go to slowly, this is entrepreneurial graveyard kind of stuff. You stop shipping, there's no feedback, there's no compounding, and you become this analysis paralysis machine. And so it was the catalyst for me creating the Ship It Society, where literally the core concept is that you get on a call with me, and if you are not shipping something meaningful every single week, I'm going to call you out on it, and I'm going to try and figure out how we can get you to take action. Because it's the only thing that matters. It is the only thing that matters. Do it when it's hard. Do it when it's inconvenient. Do it when it will make you look like a fool. Do it when you don't know how to do it, and then you'll figure it out. And so, this is this whole loop. This is this whole loop. This is this whole loop. The core concept of everything that I'm presenting here is to do the thing, which is the entire ethos of the Ship It Society. So, I'm going to leave that link below if you want to check it out. That's what we do there every week. Go and check it out. Now, if the second virus that'll stop you from achieving your full potential as an entrepreneur is the imposter syndrome loop. So many of you probably feel this, where your internal self-image doesn't match the external results. And so you will go through this exercise so often where your internal belief system is stopping you from exceeding that level. And it's only when you exceed that level internally first does the external world reflect that, because everything is a mirror. Oh my God, it's all connected. So your brain has a thermostat for what feels normal, and when you exceed it, you sabotage back to baseline. And I found myself doing this when I was like, okay, here we are, and I'm used to getting less than 1,000 views and, 3-4 subscribers per video. And then I put out a video and it gets 100 subscribers and thousands of views in 24 hours. And then it just keeps compounding and hockey sticking up. And I'm like, this makes me feel uncomfortable, because now these people don't know that this is just a fluke. Is it just a fluke? And you start thinking about all these things and you start self-sabotaging, and it's just this disgusting death spiral. This never-ending loop of, I'm not worthy of this, and you lose clients and lose business, and it's just like backwards and forwards, and you constantly feel like you've got this demon on your shoulder. And so I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but what I see at every single level, this exists. It's just like slightly different. And so where it comes from is parents, family, brothers, sisters saying things like, don't get too big for your britches. Pride comes before the fall. Watching parents struggle and absorbing, this is what people like us deserve. This is what we've always had, and this is what we will always have. And it's a very toxic environment to grow up in. But just like the fish who's surrounded by a bowl of water, he doesn't understand that he's in the bowl of water. That's just been his existence. So the third virus is the scarcity mindset. I see it all the time. People who live in abundance just have a far better life across business, relationships, friendships, adventures. They have more fun. Living in scarcity is, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It's really been my root of all unhappiness, and all of my losses have come from my scarcity mindset. And so this is something I'm constantly working on. These are just inherited beliefs by your parents' society about money and success being bad or dangerous. I remember seeing a friend of mine, I was with his mother in a car, and we drove past this guy who was in a really fancy car, and the mother said, he must be a drug dealer or a thief, because that's the only way that they could possibly afford that car. And I remember looking at my friend, and he sort of like nodding along like, yeah. And I thought, man, oh man, the types of programming that have happened over the last 20 something years have been incredibly deep. And so good luck trying to escape that. It leads to things like undercharging, sabotaging opportunities because it's too good to be true. And so I have had some of the most beautiful women in the world reach out to me in the last 12 months. And my immediate reaction is, must be a scam. So, like, you know, whereas if I say it to my friends who have a higher frequency, they think on a different level to me, their first reaction is, are you crazy, Jordan? You are in the top 0.0001% of men. Of course they're reaching out to you, you know. And so believing rich people are evil or money changes people is also scarcity. And this comes from people saying money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. Rich people are greedy. Parents fighting about money. I don't know how many of you can relate to that, but almost every fight I can think about where my parents had when I was growing up was always around money. Always around money. Or money was at the core of it. It was just ridiculous. Money grows like trees grow. In public, it looks like overnight success. In reality, it's years of watering. So trying to reframe it like this. And if we look at Sam Ovens' story, who is a fellow New Zealander, he grew up in New Zealand. His parents were middle class, and he had to consciously reprogram his beliefs around wealth. And so in New Zealand, take it from me, we have this massive tall poppy syndrome. So what that means is that you don't want to grow too tall or too big because you just get cut down. And you get cut down to meet everybody else that's at the same level as you. And so it's just a very toxic way of growing up where nobody wants to stand. Like, if you're an American listening to this, you don't understand. But if you're a Brit or if you're a Kiwi or an Aussie, you know exactly what I mean. And so Sam talks about how he was defending his parents' worldview, not his own. And so because they had basically opened up his mouth and stuffed it down there without him knowing it between 0 and 7 years old. Okay, Jordan, so you say, cool, I am a pathetic excuse for a man, and how do I fix this? Because I can't go back to being 3 years old and tell my parents not to tell me that I'm not enough. So the 5-minute protocol looks like this. The first minute, you have to interrupt the pattern with an anti-vision. So Danko talks about this, but close your eyes and visualize yourself in 10 years if nothing changes. This will literally chill you to the bone and scare you if you're doing it right. Ask yourself, where do you wake up? Okay, so nothing changes in your life over the next 10 years. Where do you wake up? What does your body feel like? What's your first thought? Who is around you or not around you? And what opportunities have completely closed off and will never open up again? You're not going scuba diving and traveling around the world when you're 75, right? Who gave up on you? And what do people say about you when you're not in the room? If nothing changes about your life, what is the anti-vision of your life that you want to move away from as quickly as possible that will happen in 10 years if you don't take action? And an easy way of thinking about this is everybody knows somebody 10 years ahead of them that's doing the exact same things. If I look at some of the people I was in high school with, I know that if I didn't leave my little town and go and pursue some different things, I'd be working at Starbucks, living across the road from the school where I spent 10 years, and I would have married some ugly fat woman and had a bunch of ugly fat kids. I know that sounds harsh, but half of my graduating class, that's their life. And so I don't need to think too hard to see what my life would have been like if I had followed the same things that they had done. So ask yourself that question. And then in minute 2, you identify the source code. So what would I have to believe about myself for my current situation to feel natural? So if you are stuck at 15K a month, I would have to believe that I'm not capable of more. If you can't post content, I would have to believe people will judge me and I'll be rejected. And then, so the follow-up questions are to find out where these beliefs come from, because they're most likely not yours. Where did this belief come from? Whose voice is this? And is this my belief or did I inherit it? Minute number 3 is to build a proof stack. So list 5. Now, I suggest you actually go through and write all this stuff down and do it at least once and then think about it. Every time you have one of these beliefs that are stopping you from doing the thing, go through this process. Build 5 pieces of evidence that contradict the limiting belief. So I learn a skill faster than most people. Or actually, I closed a client the other day with 0 credibility. I posted content even when I'm scared. I took rejection and I stayed in the game. I built something from nothing. I had this conversation with a woman the other day who couldn't figure out how to use something on a computer, and I said to her, "You are a mother, right?" "Yes." "And do you have a healthy relationship with your son?" "Yes." "Well, what you're saying is something that I couldn't possibly fathom doing because I've never done that, but you've done it. And I think raising a child is a lot more difficult than figuring out how to use Google Drive. So before you get overwhelmed and tell yourself that you can't do the thing, you've done things that are way more difficult before that you can look at and go, well, if I'm capable of doing that, then surely I'm capable of doing this. So list times that you've learned something difficult, and learning ability matters more than current knowledge, because you cannot hold 2 contradictory beliefs simultaneously. The one with more evidence will win. And what you want to do is replace the one that you currently have, which is not serving you, with one that you want to have that will serve you, but back it up with evidence. And then this one will slowly disappear and you'll just be left with the one that serves you. And then you install the new programming with identity clarification. So I'm the type of person who, specific behavior. I'm the type of person who ships weekly even when it's imperfect. I'm the type of person who follows up until I get a no. I'm the type of person who raises prices when value increases, and I'm the type of person who invests in myself and my business. You don't just say, I am confident, I am wealthy. It's all just too vague and your brain rejects it. It needs to be around identity. And then commitment lock with immediate action. So when I said that I was going to post 1 video a day for 100 days, if I hadn't posted it publicly and kept myself accountable in this group, and like even in the free group where there are 5,000 other entrepreneurs, I would have not done it. There's just no chance. I know that I'm pretty stubborn, but there were some things that happened during this process which would have made it otherwise impossible for me to post. But because I committed and I publicly said that I was going to do this, I did it. And it was so painful for like 2 weeks out of the 100 days. But because I stuck through those 2 weeks, I was able to do the rest of the weeks, right? So it can be in the paid group, which obviously I suggest. It can be in the free group, which I'll leave link down below as well, where, people are still keeping each other accountable in here, but it's not nearly as much as the paid group. And look, I mean, this is $99 a month. What is it worth to you to get the life of your dreams and win and do all the things that you need to do? I would say that it's definitely worth more than $99 a month. And so come in, join. There's all of these refund and conditional guarantees and first client guarantees, even in the first 90 days, just to remove as much risk as possible so that you've got no excuses. So that's what I would suggest. Worst case, have a weekly check-in with a friend and give a list of deliverables and all the things that you're going to do, because public commitment matters a lot. So this idea of neuroscience and identity reprogramming comes from this neuroplasticity, where beliefs are just purely neural pathways, and they are not things that you cannot change. They are not part of you and the core of you. They are just electrical impulses inside your brain that have been paved, and so they're easy to travel through, and so your brain defaults to going down the easy path. New beliefs are dirt paths, and they're rough and uncomfortable, and they require just a little bit of effort. But when you start taking action on the new belief, you start paving that as the new default, and you start ignoring the old belief. The highway that you used to use, which didn't serve you, erodes. So think about it visually like that. This is why action beats everything. Your brain doesn't believe what you think, it believes what you do. And so your old identity could be, I'm not a salesperson. And your brain's job is to prove that you're not a salesperson. So you avoid sales calls, you fumble pitches, you self-sabotage right at the end, you forget to ask for the credit card. But if your new identity is that you are the type of person who serves clients by enrolling them, your brain starts looking for evidence to back that up and paving that path, proving that you are the type of person. So you start seeking opportunities and improving your pitches, etc. So real quick, last thing, some advanced hacks. If you made it all the way to the end here for entrepreneurs, the rule of 100 will change your life. It's Alex Hormozi's rule, where you do 100 primary actions daily for 100 days. And I'm just about to start another 100 days because it changed my business and my life forever. And I'm going to do it again because I want to set a good example for you guys, and especially the Shipper Society members. So make sure that you are part of this group, because I'm about to launch some pretty exciting stuff. So that looks like 100 cold outreach attempts, 100 warm outreach attempts, or 100 minutes of content creation, or spending $100 and 100 minutes on ads a day for 100 days without a break. Personally, I posted 100 videos in 100 days, and I made the decision sort of on a whim because I wanted to have something in this group that we could all do together. And looking back on it, I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be. But my God, it has been unbelievable. I've gotten 250,000 views. I've posted almost 200 videos now, and I have more than 5,000 subscribers. And I have made tens of thousands of dollars as a result purely of just posting content. And so now I have become a content creator, whereas before it was an aspiration of mine for years. But I had told myself I'm the type of person who waits. I'm the type of person who puts only perfect work out. And it stopped me from being the content creator that I want to be. So this public accountability is really important. It's much more powerful than willpower. You don't want to look like a quitter. And if you tell people you're going to do something, you are 10 times more likely you're going to do it. So that's why every founder is now, quote, building in public, right? And so join the Shipper Society. We'll keep you accountable and put together a minimum viable identity concept. Don't try and be Mark Zuckerberg. Start with, I'm the type of person who takes action every day. I'm the type of person who builds systems and delegates tasks. I'm the type of person who scales businesses. And this incremental identity shift is much more sustainable than I am a billionaire Elon Musk. So I challenge you, maybe not for 100 days, but just start with 30 days and then reevaluate at the end of those. Pick one limiting belief, run the 5-minute protocol today. After this video is finished, take one action daily as your new identity and then track it publicly, either by commenting below, put it on Twitter, have an accountability partner, or obviously the best option is to join the Shipper Society down below. And if you do this for 30 days, you won't recognize yourself. Not because you'll be different, but because you'll finally be who you actually are without all the corrupted code that your parents installed. So drop your limiting belief in the comments below. Either join the free community and get a taste, or I'll also leave the paid community if you want the proper accountability and you want to be in here with us every day posting wins, collecting cash, and breaking through limiting beliefs. So that's all from me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and check out the next video on the screen. If you enjoyed this one, lots more like it, and I'll see you there. Peace.